questions along the way, let me know. But I am going to share my screen and get us started with tonight's presentation. There we go. Can I have a thumbs up if we can see it? Awesome, thank you. One of the things about sharing your screen is that sometimes you can see things and sometimes you can't see everything. So it gets a little bit more complicated. There's our welcome screen. This is Back to School Night 2020. I'm very excited. I just do want to say, I can't see everyone. So if at some point you raise your hand, I might not be able to see you. So Cassie's going to help me with that also, but feel free to type something in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask a question along the way. We're really excited for this year of everything, right? This is certainly, there's just so many words that we've used over and over again, the unprecedented and having to pivot and all these things, but it is all of those things. I told the teachers that everyone, it feels like our whole society is building the boat and sailing it too. We are just going with the flow, and things are going to change last minute, and we're all going to live in this world of last minute and not being able to plan. But so far, everyone has adapted to it brilliantly. I've been so pleased with how well the teachers and students are doing, and we'll kind of dig into that as we go tonight. So how's ARS working this year? What are you doing? I assume that most of you know what your own child is doing, but I kind of wanted to give you the layout of what the two options are so you can see a little bit about what the other thing is. Basically, we have ARS happening around from about 3:30 to 6 o'clock when you include Tefila. And our ARS at Home track has a Judaica time block for 45 minutes, and then they have one of two Hebrew blocks. The other one is a break for them, and then they join us for Tefila over Zoom. ARS at TOS also is for that hour and a half, 3:30 to 5. Everybody goes home and we jump on Tefila at 5:30. And we're also offering to 5th and 6th graders some additional Hebrew sessions over Zoom on Wednesdays, just because of the limitations of being in person and singing and those kinds of things. So it's a chance for them to just get a little bit of extra in addition to what they're doing at ARS itself. So our theme this year is Im Ein Ani Li Mili. It is the full quotation is from Pirkei Avot, which is called the sages are sayings of our fathers, and it is this beautiful idea. Im Ein Ani Li Mili Uchsha'ani La'atzmi Ma'ani Ve'im Lo Achshav Imatai. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? So you may have heard this. If you grew up going to camp, you might have sung this as a song. Josh Cohen, if you've got his CD, he wrote an Im Ein Ani Li Mili song, which we will be learning over the course of the year this year. But it's this beautiful idea of you need self-care, and then we also need to care about each other. This isn't just about ourselves. And if we don't do it now, when will we do it? And to me, this just felt like, in the middle of a pandemic, this is the thing that we need to be thinking about the most. We need to take care of ourselves, we need to take care of each other, and we need to do it now. We can't wait. So that is our theme. It comes up throughout our curriculum. We're going to sing a song about it all year long. It's kind of how we make our ARS themes work. So ARS teachers, the most amazing thing about ARS 2020-2021 is that all of our teachers have been with us before. So we have one teacher who has only ever taught in the preschool, and this is his first year of teaching at ARS, but everyone else has taught for ARS before. And I just feel like I've won the teacher lottery. I've actually been at a few meetings with other education directors around the region and said that, and all their mouths have dropped open. Like, are you serious? That's what you have? And so that's been so incredibly special, because they know us, they know your kids. Some of them are teaching the same kids they've taught before. There's something really special about that. So what should you expect to be getting from your teachers? Weekly emails with an update on the class, often having pictures. Hopefully you've been receiving those. If you have not, please let Cassie know, and she'll make sure that you're on the email list, or that things didn't get, copied and pasted the wrong way or something like that. In the month of November, you'll get a check-in email about your own child. Just a quick, here's how little Bobby is doing, and this is what we're learning this year, and it's been such a pleasure to have Bobby in class. Or I could use a few more strategies to help engage Bobby. Tell me more about your child. Just a chance to kind of open that conversation with you. We do phone calls home in February and March, and then we're doing a year-end wrap-up email. We don't do any kind of like report cards or descriptive reviews or any of those things. That's not really what our program is about. It's about communication. It's about having fun. It's about building Jewish lives together. The next few slides are pictures of the teachers, because I know that you don't really have the opportunity to see your teachers in exactly the same way. So I kind of wanted to just show you who our staff is. So this is, as you probably have figured out at this point, our grades aren't really divided grade by grade. We're really doing cohorts this year because of the way that the numbers worked out in terms of who wanted ARS at home and who wanted ARS at TOS. So some of our teachers are teaching multi-grade groups and some of our teachers only have one grade. It really depended on numbers all across the board. So Nava Eisenberg is teaching our kindergarten and first grade class at ARS at home. Our second, third grade combination is taught by Gabby DeVolio and Cantor Jerry Robbins. And our fourth, fifth grade is taught by Debbie Batesh. Again, these are all teachers who've taught for us before, which is so great. Cantor Mayan Harel is teaching our sixth grade and ARS at home. Rabbi Daniel Schaefer is teaching seventh grade. Talia Greenberg is our Hebrew specialist. Oh, this went in the opposite way. What happened to my, sorry, I thought I was going across and I didn't. Is our Hebrew specialist, and Josh Cohen is our music and kind of technology support specialist and Tefila. And then our ARS at TOS staff is Amelia Remy, who for a second I thought I had her maiden name on there, who's teaching our K1 cohort. Joanna Lieberman's teaching our second grade. Daniel Anderson's teaching our third, fourth grade cohort, and Jen Whitman is teaching our fifth, sixth grade cohort. We also have TOS teens taught by Rabbi Schaefer and Cassie Samuels. We're offering a few classes this year, Jews in the News, which is a weekly class, monthly Rosh Chodesh and Shevet Achim groups, which are gender separated groups designed to help teens figure out the messy business of growing up. And then we'll also offer our confirmation class over the course of the winter to 10th and 11th graders. That will be taught by Rabbi Schaefer. I believe that this is a good stopping point. Does anyone have any questions about teachers or expectations along the way? Okay, I'll keep talking.
Oh, Alon has a question.
Oh, Alon, great.
Question. What is the TOS Teens?
So TOS Teens is our program for once you've finished seventh grade, once you've had your bar mitzvah, we still want you to be engaged at TOS. And honestly, we have not been great about doing that in the past, and we're really working hard this year on re-engaging our teen population and making them feel connected and involved. Last year, we did offer a confirmation class for 10th and 11th graders that if you we did a service over Zoom in March, I believe it was, or was it May? In May. It ended up being in May because it got postponed and all the pandemic and all the things, where they were able to offer some teachings to the congregation, and we're planning to do the same this year. And it's really, you know, Jewish life doesn't end when you turn 13. In fact, it actually only grows and deepens. And so we want to make sure that there's an opportunity for teens to feel like TOS is their safe space, even if they're not here with us physically, that they can always be connected to us. So yeah, I'm excited to guest teach here and there and that. Any other questions?
Is there, this is a little bit off topic, but is there like BBYO or anything like that that the kids in the temple get involved with?
So we're connected to NIFTY, which is the National Federation of Temple Youth. And in the past, we definitely have had kids go to different events here and there. NIFTY's doing, I mean, everything's remote this year. They're not doing anything in person, but we're, you know, that's who we're connected to. And I'm hoping to kind of continue to grow that youth group component of our program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So yeah, I have a quick question or just a musing. We were chatting about why we know that Sus would love to spend time with Cassie. So just wondering, like, we can't get her to come yet. We think it's because she's just stacked. And we think that once winter comes and if we go into lockdown, the interest will change.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to say that. I don't know. I don't actually have evidence that anything would change, but I have a sense that, like, it might change. So I don't know if that's part of the planning process or.
Yeah, I certainly kids can kind of come in and out as makes sense to them. We try to be as flexible as possible. Were you going to add something else, Cassie?
Yeah, I also just wanted, I know we have a few parents with teens here, but the Jews in the News class that we're going to run is really an open forum for people and teens to really gather different opinions about different things throughout the world and issues that are popping up, specifically, obviously, from a Jewish perspective, but it really lends itself well to popping in and out if need be. So maybe that's a way to get Celeste in. I would love to have her join us. So yeah.
I can chime in to add on to what Fawn said. Part of it in our household is like there's just a lot of Zoom happening because Caleb isn't back physically at school at all. So 1 more hour Zoom I think is not as appealing. I think the Jews in the News part is of interest. The other part, like around growth and teen issues with their bodies, he's getting in PE, so he's definitely not interested in that. So I know that the options were like once a month with that or all of it. So I'm not sure, you know, when you talk about flexibility, if we could just do the Jews in the News part, that might have some appeal.
Absolutely. We can also rearrange the language on the form to make that clear that they can choose just that. We're happy to, you know, again, we want our students to engage. If they want to engage with us, we want to be there for them. So totally flexible about that.
Amy and Cassie, can you talk for 30 seconds about Shevet Achim and Rosh Chodesh? I've seen the curriculum, but I think some of the other parents may be really interested to hear what they're covering.
So Rosh Chodesh and Shevet Achim is this is a national curriculum. They have trained they have had thousands of students in these groups, and it's sponsored by an organization called Moving Traditions. Moving Traditions really dives in deeply to the issues of Judaism and gender roles and how do you grow up to be a mensch, basically. Like how are we raising our kids to be good people and to be kind and to navigate the really complicated social components of teenagerhood. We've actually run these groups at TOS before. It was like, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 years ago before I even started there. And they were always like the kids loved them actually. One student, so it must have been, it was a long time ago, but one student told me that this was like a very important group for him as he was navigating 8th grade, like that this made all the difference. And he had this really cool group leader and it felt like he had a group to talk about the hard boy stuff, because there is a lot of hard stuff that our kids have to face. And this is really, the curriculum's designed by rabbis, psychologists, educators, social workers, who really work to figure out how do we help support our kids throughout this time. And they're designed to be once a month and not too touchy-feely, just a space for kids to be themselves and a safe space with, the people that they trust from their synagogue, who they've known for lots of years. So would you add anything else, Cassie, or did I cover it?
I think you did a fantastic job.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
I have a question. That sounds great. Could that ever be offered for younger students?
So let me tell you something, which is that for younger students, Moving Traditions has a program called the Bene Mitzvah Experience, which we also use that curriculum. So it gets at some of those gender issues, but it's really more about the bar and bat mitzvah process. So we actually will start that this year for Mira in 6th grade. So yes, absolutely is the answer. Okay, I'm going to continue on. What's new at ARS this year? So this is a chance for me to tell you a little bit about our ARS curriculum, which is La Briut. So basically, as we realized that we needed to have 2 different options for our students, we realized that our classrooms were going to get divided up. The kids who'd always been with each other would be divided in different ways, and we were going to really have to create cohorts that were cross-grade communities and work hard on building new friendships and kind of establishing a new baseline. So as we thought about looking at curriculum differently, enter La Briute. La Briute is a values-based curriculum that was created by the Jewish Education Center of Cleveland this summer. They basically said, we are in a pandemic. There are Jewish synagogues across the country who are all saying, I have to rewrite my curriculum. This doesn't work anymore. I can't do this in a remote space. I can't do this in a physical space with all these restrictions. So they created this values-based curriculum that can work either remotely or in person. And the real goal is to be supporting families and learners where they are and helping them connect to their Jewish lives. I understand that this year is it is so overwhelming in so many ways. And my number one goal is to continue and build community, and to also feel like we're still having fun and that this is still a place where they can find joy and find their love of Judaism. So La Briute goes through La Briute means to your health and wellness. And it's built on kind of these five Jewish values, sorry, I just read my slide wrong. And they actually, they complement 5 caregiving principles that support trauma recovery, actually, which happened to be very interesting as they were crafting this curriculum to about the fact that we are all kind of in this weird collective trauma or challenges. And certainly the curriculum does not talk about being in collective trauma. I want to make sure that's very clear. We're not talking about our traumatizing experience of the pandemic. In fact, they really don't talk about COVID-19 at all. They talk about these ideas of safety, of inner strength, of social connectedness, and of hope and kindness. And they all build on each other to really create a year filled with the beautiful Jewish values, right? They're universal values, but these are why they're Jewish values. So each of our teachers is approaching this a little bit differently, and what I've said to them all, because again, we know them all, they're all wonderful, is that they're each an expert in what they do and in the age group that they're working with. And so if they're finding that they need to adapt a little bit more, go a little bit more into some Jewish history as they teach the value of Gvura, because they're going to talk about the heroes of our Jewish past, then they're going to do that. But overall, we are all following the same curriculum in K to 6, which is kind of amazing. So it's going to be a very interesting year as we go through this. But I'm excited about it because I really believe it's going to do exactly what we want, and to ground our kids and to make them feel like we have that safe communal space together. Yes, the next slide is about something totally different. So are there any other questions about La Briute? Okay, I can talk about Hebrew. So Hebrew at ARS has a few different components. So we start with something in our youngest grades called Hebrew through movement. And the way Hebrew through movement works is that we're learning words and actually doing the actions. So I'll do a little bit myself. I say lakum and everybody stands up, and I say lashevet and we sit down. And I participated in this both in person and remotely on Tuesday afternoon, and it was really amazing how fun it was. I got very exhausted by the time I was done with lihistovev, which is to spin, and lichpots, which Golda Munzer kept telling me to do all day, which is jumping. But it's fun, it's interactive, and it teaches the kids the way in which Hebrew works, basically. There's something, it does teach the infinitive of the verb rather than actually the action word or the command form. So it's not totally perfect, but conceptually, we are teaching them to hear Hebrew and to understand Hebrew so that it then builds into the prayers. The way, unfortunately, with, an hour and a half, 2 hours a week, we just don't have enough time to teach Hebrew in a real full way. We don't have time to teach them how to speak Hebrew, but hearing Hebrew and speaking this bit of Hebrew helps to give them the foundation for Tefillah later along the way. Cassie,
Sorry,
did you have something to say?
I didn't mean to interrupt, but we're getting, I think, some feedback on your side in your background. I'm just not sure. It sounds like scratchy headphones or someone.
I can unplug the headphones. We can see if that works better. No guarantees, everyone. Any better? Kind of better? Maybe? Great. All right. We'll try that and see how that goes. Thank you for letting me know. I don't want to be scratchy. That would not be very helpful to anyone. So the next component of our Hebrew is Jewish life vocabulary. So these are vocabulary words that kids need to know because they're in everything we do, right? So the word bima, which means the, not stage, but where you walk up to, where the ark is. The word ark is part of Jewish life vocabulary. The word shalom is Jewish life vocabulary. There's a lot of words that we just use automatically at ARS, and we are actually trying to increase that more and more so that they're, again, hearing more and more Hebrew. And another really key component of Hebrew is Tefila. And I will talk a little bit more deeply about Tefila in a couple more slides, but it's how they hear the way in which we pray, and it's how they hear the connectedness. And it is really important, especially because so many of our kids really aspire to have a bar bat mitzvah. Being part of Tefillah, hearing the sound of the prayer is a crucial component. And then also, of course, decoding. So decoding is actually learning what do the sounds of letters make, how do I put them together into words? And we've actually been pushing the decoding a little bit later, so they're doing that more in 3rd, 4th grade. Right? We were starting that in 2nd grade, and we found that we were having to teach it over and over and over again. So by increasing our Hebrew through movement, our Tefillah, and our Jewish life vocabulary, we are able to push decoding a little later and just teach it. So if you're noticing that maybe your child isn't learning the letters quite as young anymore, that's why. It is a purposeful decision and practice. Does anyone have questions about Hebrew? Okay, I'll keep going. Oh, Tefillah. So if you've seen me lead Tefillah, you probably can tell that I love it, and it's really my favorite time of the week. There's a lot of words on this slide. There's even more on the next slide. I apologize for that. For the past 15 years, I want to say, ooh, that's a lot. I've been involved with a Tefillah teaching program that is a national program that was designed out of Central Synagogue in New York and really is purposeful. So if you've seen Tefillah binders, there's no English in there. There's no transliteration in there. The kids have just the Hebrew words, and it's the Hebrew words in the middle. I should have had one right here. That would have made my life so much easier, with a lot of blank space around it. And it's designed so that as we go through Tefillah and as they go through their years, they learn more and more about the prayers. So we ask Tefillah questions at the end of each week. So far this year, they've all been about kind of establishing our baseline of what is prayer, why do we pray, what does it mean to pray, is it Jewish prayer the same as Christian prayer? Well, that's not what the question is. What makes a prayer a Jewish prayer is the question. And the kids have amazing answers to all of these. And then as the year goes on, we're going to actually start diving into even more specific prayers. So as we talk about the Shema, my question for one of the questions for that one, the Shema says, "Hear, Shema Yisrael and Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one." One of the questions is, why just one God? Wouldn't it be better to have lots of gods? And the kids actually really dive in and think about, well, why is that? Where did that come from? What is that all about? Oh, for Zoom, it's a little harder, I will certainly admit. But one of the things that we do is we ask these questions here, and then they talk about it in class a few weeks later. And at some point, they take their page out of its sheet protector and they draw meaning on that page. So if they're talking about the Shema and God being one, they might draw a number 1 or one of those foam finger number 1s, or they might talk about hearing and draw an ear. They're allowed to write English words. They're allowed to write pictures, but they're not allowed to write out SHEMA. They can't write transliteration. That's my one rule. And then they have that page in their binder so that when they're praying the Shema, they look down and they say, oh, right, this is about hearing and this is about God being one. And they've got those cues that help it, that work for them. So if your child if your child is in ARS at home and you came to our day where you got to meet the teachers in person, we gave you your Tefillah binder. If you didn't and you want it, we have them. We're going to organize a Hanukkah pickup in advance of Hanukkah. So that might be another time for families to come and get their tefillah binders. It's just a nice thing to have. Tefillah binders are given to kids in 3rd grade and up. So not when they're younger. It's really designed for once you're really diving into Hebrew differently. So this is a picture of last year and what it was like when we were all in person, and it makes me a little sad. So we're just going to keep going. This is a page with all sorts of goals. If you want to read them, you can feel free. If it's too many words and it's too late at night, I'm going to put this PowerPoint online and you can look at it later, which is great. Do you have questions about tefillah?
I'll just comment quickly that I think it's really nice, and it's nice to hear your, I mean, like obviously we sit in on it sometimes or parts of it, and it always flashes me back to Hebrew school and like sitting in the chapel at the end and kind of zoning out. But
You're on Hebrew school?
My own Hebrew school, yeah. But I like hearing this, what your approach is, and I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's probably hard to get through to even to get through to us, but with this, I feel like they'll hopefully absorb some of it and, you know, understand the spirituality. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's designed to be recursive. Is that the word? I'm spiraling. It repeats itself over and over on purpose. The same way we read the Torah over and over every single year. Tefillah is designed that if they're in 6th grade, they heard those tefillah questions back in 2nd grade or 3rd grade. That is on purpose so that they now can approach it from a very different level. And now that they think about lots of gods in the Shema, they might have a very different opinion than they had back in 3rd grade. So if they complain that it feels like it's the same, that there's a reason for that. That's actually by design.
But it's nice too when we're in person that they have the tefillah buddies that
Yes.
they can teach, you know, that they can teach the older ones can teach the younger ones.
Yeah. So if you're new to ARS this year, we usually have buddies with an older child and a younger child, and it's so sweet, and it really helps build community and build connection. And when we ask the tefillah question, they talk about it with their buddies, which works really well for some and not as well for others, but the teachers move around and try to engage as many kids as possible. And it really, the room is filled with people talking about prayer, and it's just so special. So as much as if you're joining us over Zoom, like if you can talk to your kids for a few minutes about what prayer is and what it means and answer that question together, it's wonderful for me. So thanks in advance for any help you can give us as we transition to the Zoom world. Any other questions or thoughts on tefillah?
I was just going to say that one of the things that I always enjoyed, I used to, because it's right before pickup, so I used to get to see this part, is it really does a great job of introducing the idea of constructive debate around Judaism, and that it's not this is not something that the rabbis hand us and we receive. This is something that, you know, is constantly being reinterpreted and redebated and rediscussed, and that's part of an ongoing conversation. And so it really instills that idea with them, and has been really sort of instrumental in giving at least my kids an entree into that part of Judaism.
Yeah, I mean, what I always say is to be the people of Israel is to be the people who Yisrael. So Yisra and El is God, and Yisra is to struggle. So we're God strugglers, we're questioners. That's what we're supposed to do. And so to teach that to kids, that it's their job to be part of this ongoing conversation. And that's what it means to be Jewish, is to be connected to something, to generations past. And even if your own family wasn't Jewish in generations past, this is yours too. This is for all of us. And it's what we do as a people, is that we ask questions and we dig in and we find the answers that work for us. I always talk about how I want all of the students to kind of have a Jewish space in their heart, so that no matter where they go or what they do or in their lives, that Judaism always feels like it's safe. And so maybe someday they're going to find a synagogue near their college campus and start volunteering at their Hebrew school. Or maybe someday they're going to go find a Hillel or a Chabad in Italy or something, and find their way to something Jewish because they had that start with us in their hearts. So thank you. I'm going to keep going because all of a sudden I'm aware of time. I also want to take a minute to talk a little bit about our Bene Mitzvah curriculum, because that's also a big part of what we do. In 5th grade, families complete a survey. They're assigned Bene Mitzvah dates. Adding in this year is giving 5th grade students their own copy of the Torah and learning and doing some Torah study over the course of the year with their family. As they move into 6th grade as Torah scholars, they learn about what it means to give a Devar Torah, which is the sermon that the kids give on the morning of their bar bat mitzvah, and practice delivering those to other kids in their class. And then we also have those family education programs that I talked about previously that work with where we work with moving traditions that kind of talk about the Jewish wisdom in B'nai Mitzvah and growing up and the social elements of all of that. As we get into 7th grade, the students dive deep into mitzvah projects, which are ways to do tikkun olam to make the world a better place. They examine what it means to be a Jewish adult. And then we have a few family education programs there about final stages of preparation and life after bar mitzvah, and how do we stay connected and involved. Questions about bar mitzvah? I mean, I'm sure you will have lots of questions about bar mitzvah as we get closer, but any questions at this specific moment? Oh, that was it. That was my last slide. I didn't give myself a like, hey, Amy, this is almost your last slide note. But I will, I'm going to leave this open for a couple seconds so that if you need anyone's contact information, you can just jot it down or take a little picture of this slide. But really, we want you to feel like our virtual doors are open to you as much as possible. There's my contact information. I've been kind of working from home sometimes and at TOS sometimes. So I've been using a Google Voice line that reaches me wherever my computer is. So you can always call me on that. I mean, maybe not always, not at midnight, but you know, something that resembles, approximates the work hours. But really, we want you to feel like you can talk to us and be involved and be connected and ask us questions whenever you'd like. So
I also want to note that our offices are open and I'm in the office every day during the week. So if you ever have any questions, you're like, it's not Tuesday, doesn't matter. Please email us, call us. I would be more than happy to answer the phone and chat. And also welcome Rabbi Berkman.
I was just going to say, now that I've stopped sharing, I can see people and I see that Rabbi Berkman's here. Would you like to say hello to all these
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to pop in. I wasn't able to be here earlier in the night, but I'm glad to see a nice crowd here. And I am at Tefila sometimes at ARS, as some of you know, and actually hope to be there with more frequency. And we are, I don't know, everything that you talked about tonight, but I am certainly looking at ways that I can plug in more with ARS and really get to know your kids who I don't yet know or who I don't yet know very well. That's really important to me. We just want them to feel like, especially without our typical Shabbat B'yachad times, although Amy, I don't know if you talked about that, what that might look like, because it's not exactly part of the ARS curriculum, but stay tuned. I guess my message is we are thinking very actively about ways to make sure that every person in our community of every age and stage has a way to connect, and actually has multiple ways to connect in this strange world. And especially now that this is a chronic situation and not an acute crisis mode that we all went into, and we all used the word pivot way too much back in March and April, and we did so much pivoting that, you know, we got dizzy. So now we've pivoted and here we are. And this is this like prolonged moment that is very different, needless to say. And so we care very much about making this period of time as meaningful, as full of value, and as connected for all of our kids and all of our adults as possible. We don't intend at all to be on a hiatus while, you know, we wait for things to quote unquote get back to normal, right? So we're here for you, and we're here for you differently, and we're eager to hear from you. I am very eager to hear from you about what would help you, not just related to ARS, but what would help you feel more connected in a more consistent and meaningful way to our community. And I am willing to think with you way out of the box about what that could look like. If you have ideas about how our community can serve you, how I can help support you and your kids, just let me know. I'm all ears. My virtual door is always open. I am working at home for the time being, but I am happy to set up a time to chat by Zoom or phone anytime. So please know that you can be in touch with me. And I know there's some folks here that I'm not sure I've ever met, or we've only connected briefly. So I hope that that we can be in touch. My goal is to really get to know everyone and not have that process stop just because we're not seeing each other in person. So if anyone, has any questions for me or has any thoughts or anything you want to share, I'm all ears. I just wanted to make sure to pop in and say hello to all of you and let you know that I very much care about having us all be connected during this time.
Thank you for being here. Does anyone have any questions for the rabbi or thoughts or ideas?
One thing I wanted to share, this is Fawn, Max's mom, is that it's been lovely to listen in to the Mayan time when they're working on their Hebrew. It's quite lovely, and she's, as we all know, fantastic. And so thank you for coming up with that remedy. I think it works really well and gives them the space to connect with that in a way that's not going to feel rushed as they get closer to their Bene dates. So thank you for that. And then just a huge hug of appreciation to each of you for everything that you're doing. I know everything takes more time, energy, when we're all trying to figure out how to put one foot in front of the other. So thank you very much, Amy and Cassie and Rabbi Berkman and Rabbi Schaefer and Josh and crew. Just truly thank you for everything that you're doing. And Sherry, the way that you hold everything together is just amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm modeling wait time. So giving you the space to jump in when you're ready. It's an educator thing. I see a small child.
She wants to be here, and she runs away.
In the room where it happens. Yeah.
When I point the camera at her.
The truth. Amy just said you want to be in the room where it happens.
Well, if there aren't other thoughts, we can kind of move towards wrapping up. I'm happy to kind of just hang in this Zoom room. If any of you have anything you want to talk about as more people kind of disappear out. And we can actually, I'm going to stop the recording right now because otherwise then